All right, welcome everyone to our next Workshop Wednesdays, sponsored by the North Carolina Dance Education Organization. I'm Marissa Nesbitt. I'm the Vice President of Professional Development for NCDEO. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Kaustavi Sarkar, who will be giving us an introduction to Odissi dance. So I'm going to just share it on over to Kaz. I'll be checking the chat, so if anyone has questions that come up along the way, feel free to drop those in the chat, and Kaz has set some time for Q&A at the end of our session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nesbitt. Hi, Ashlyn. Am I saying your name right? Hi, Monali. So we will start with some movement and move on to some boring PowerPoint. Let's start with a land acknowledgement. So perhaps, and be comfortable with as much or as little. So here, hands to your heart center. Let's just ground down. You can sort of close your eyes and flex your heel and toes. And that way you're just like feeling the surfaces beneath. And then circle out your hand, walk to the front, reach to the floor, or not, that's fine. And then come all the way up to the sky. Bring your hands to your head and reach to the front as your feet go to the back and you bow. So let's do that a little more ceremoniously on a rhythm. 1, 2, 3, go. Ta, a, ta, ti, na, ka, ti, ni, I, ta, a, ta, ti, na, ka, ti, ni, I, ta. So really thinking about groundedness as an aesthetic in the form that we are going to explore today. So we are going to explore Odissi. Odissi is an Eastern Indian dance form. It combines music, history, ritual, culture, dance, and a lot of percussion. So reach up to the sky and let's come all the way to the floor. Bend your knees and lengthen your knees. Again, reach all the way up to the sky. Hands to your heart center. And let's just casually walk around as you feel the space, as you feel your feet melting into the floor. And as you're making these small little circles, serpentine pathways, you are feeling, you are carving sort of non-linear pathways in space. And you can use your hands as well and find ways of stretching out the front of your rib cage and then the back of the spine. So do that a few times as you walk. And remember to carve curvilinear pathways in space. And then hug your shoulder blades. I know you're all tired. It must have been a long day. Let's come back, center, back to the land acknowledgement that we started with, raising the hands to the sky and reaching the floor, bending the knees, lengthening the knees, and again bending the knees, lengthening the knees, gently come all the way up. And let's walk again. Now this time, as you walk, you want to make circles with your upper body. With one hand or with two hands, you want to feel the various circular, curvilinear paths that you can create in your spine. front and back in space, circling out, and you can be a little more grounded as you move. So move freely. Yes, beautiful. Without judgment, move freely. And one last time, we would center, grounding through the central axis to the earth, bending those knees and lengthening those knees. One last time, bending the knees, and this time you can come all the way to the floor. And let's bring our soles of the feet together. Grab those toes and gently butterfly your knees out. So just a few vocabulary elements. So we are gonna start with some posture. Then we are gonna move to some rhythmic elements. And then we are gonna move to some expressive elements. And I'm just being very, very simplistic, but this is stuff that you could really integrate in your K-12. So thinking about posture, right? Like the same footwork can happen in multiple postures and the movement looks completely different. Then we're going to talk a little bit about rhythmic progression, feel what that looks, what that feels in the body. And then we're going to really try to communicate through gesture and cultivate presence, cultivate more of a sort of a dancing voice rather than just a mute dancing body. So one more stretch to bring coming up on our sort of and straightening the spine as much as we can. Feel grounded in your pelvis, and you can just stay here, or you can glide like an eagle one way or the other, and then bind and coming gently back through the center. Again, glide like an eagle to bind and back through the center. Bringing those hands to the floor and raise the pelvis to the sky. Bend your knees generously and come up one vertebrae at a time. And let's just tap side to side. Tapping side to side sort of feels a constant movement. Then you want to contrast that with total stillness. So you have this idea of movement as a unit, and then you would have stillness as a unit. And then you would have movement in some parts and stillness in others. So posture is something like that. So this is complete stillness called sama. Sama, equal weight in 2 feet, equal equipoise. Then let's dump all the weight onto your left leg. I am mirroring you. So you've dumped all the weight on the left leg. And then you come back to sama and you dump all the weight on your right leg. So the hip deflects, the knee bends. As you dump the weight on your left leg, your right knee bends. Let's try back to sama, moving to abhanga and back to sama, moving to abhanga. And maybe we can add just a little bit of gesture. That way we are getting used to it. Odissi uses a lot of hands. So back to sama, while one hand can be here, the other hand can hold the wrist. Abhanga, and you see your head tilts, your torso shifts, but back to sama, moving to abhanga. Beautiful. One last time. Ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi. Just a little bit of movement. Ta, thi, na, ita, thi, ni, ta. Now we move on to a very squared and grounded posture. It's chauka. So here it's not similar to the ballet second position, but it's 2 fist distance between your heels. So I had to adjust myself. You bring that, and then you are not completely turned out, whatever is comfortable, and you bend your knees such that your knee and your big toe are in one line, and they are basically sort of in a plie. And we can get up and down to get used to this really grounded movement, making sure that the pelvis is not tucked in or tucked out. It's really in a neutral position. So the pelvis is totally in a neutral position, straight spine. And ta, ta, hi, na, ta, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ta. A 4-beat time cycle. Ta, hi, na, ta, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ta, hi, ni, ta. Now let's bring the right leg to the front as if in a not necessarily a fifth position, but a sort of tribhangi. This is called tribhangi. And you bend the knees in such a way that the front leg is sort of at sort of a central point of the supporting leg. Now, the interesting thing is this. All your body weight shifted to the front, all your body weight shifted to the back. Again, shift to the front, shift to the back. Now stay at the back. Bend your knees. And that's your tribhangi. As you shift your torso, tilt your upper body to the right without shifting the weight to the front. So let's try this again. So I told you, right? Some stillness, some motion. Sitting and getting up. Again, sitting and getting up. Pushing the weight to the front leg. Bringing the weight to the back leg. Now, staying here, comfortable. The supporting leg. The left leg is the weight-bearing leg. The right leg is the gesturing leg, not non-weight-bearing leg. Upper body tilts to the right. And here is what you have as tribhangi, right? And let's just do an exercise where we stack this leg and push our upper body, ribcage to the other side, and bring it back. Again, we push the leg, take the ribcage up and over and bring it back. 2 more times, I promise. Up, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, thi, na, thi, ta, thi, ni, ta. Okay, beautiful. This is tribhangi. Back to sama. Abhanga, sama, abhanga. Sama, chauka. And let's move to the left side. Now, left leg comes to the front, the same exercise. We plie a few times to get used to the slots. Imagine this is a slot. So we get used to the slots without hurting any part of us. Now, we get comfortable with the gesturing and the weight bearing. The gesturing leg and the weight bearing leg. And let's settle in the weight bearing leg. We bring it down, groundedness, and we tilt. And let's do the 4 rounds. 3, go. Ta, ta, hi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, thi, na, ita, thi, ni, ta. Lovely. Let's come back. So let's just do one round of all four. Total stillness in sama, some stillness, some gentle movement in abhanga, abhanga, abhanga. I'll share these words with you during the PowerPoint. Then groundedness, deep groundedness in chauka, chauka, deep groundedness. And then that is a symmetrical position. Tribhangi is asymmetrical with right Tribhangi, very different from left Tribhangi. Awesome, beautiful. So this is my spiel on the posture. Now, the point of today's class would be to do a footwork, a particular footwork, and do them in these three postural containers. So imagine these postures are containers, vehicles, but we would do the same footwork. And the footwork is a very simple one. It's a triplet, heel, flat, flat, right? Heel, flat, flat, heel, flat, flat. So let's just do a heel. This is how you do a heel, where you are simply stamping or placing or marking the heel on the floor. So this is how you are getting used to that activity. This is in sama. You are literally in the posture, the totally standing posture. Let's try the other leg, the left leg. So you're really feeling the heel on the floor. Isolation is huge in Odissi. Isolation, you're isolating parts of your feet, right? Now, let's try a heel with the right leg, a flat with the left leg, and a join with the right leg. A heel with the left leg, a flat with the left leg, a join. One more time. A heel right, flat, left, heel, flat, right. Other side, heel left, flat, right, flat, left. Again, ta, ta, hi, na, ka. Okay, we are still in the 4-beat time cycle, so we are leaving the 4th beat out. Again, 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Hold. Now this is in sama. Imagine we are putting all the weight on the right leg. What does that mean in that case? Then the right leg is totally immobile. Then the only leg that can move is the left leg. Because the right leg is a weight-bearing leg. You cannot do heel flat, flat in this. So in that case, maybe the hands can come here to your waist and you could do heel, flat, flat, and heel, flat, flat. And you could also do the serpentine pathways in space. And you can do it faster, do it even faster, even faster. Other side. So here again, weight shifts all the way to the left. So then the left leg becomes totally still and supportive and weight bearing. Your only right leg is mobile, and that's where you're gonna play around. You're gonna play around with the right leg with the same footwork, heel, flat, flat. Adi, ta, 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 adi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta, a, ta, hi, na, ina, ki, ta, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ina, ki, ta, hi, ni, ta. Now, chauka, the strong grounded square position. We will do the same heel, flat, flat. But what's interesting in chauka is that not one leg is weight bearing and one leg is supporting. Both are doing that labor. Both are doing both supporting as well as gesturing. So here you have the chauka. So let's just get used to this. Now, here you are going to keep those knees bent. The angles in the knees will not change. As you stamp your heel, stamp your flat, stamp your flat. And other side, heel and flat and flat. Nice, beautiful. So weight bearing leg and supporting leg, both are doing the same labor. Ta. Both are bearing weight and both are gesturing. Ta. Ta. Hi. Ta. Ti. Ni. Ta. Ta. Hi. Na. Ka. Ti. 4 more times. Ta. Hi. Na. Ka. Ti. Ni. Ta. Ta. Hi. Na. Ka. Ti. Last 2 times. Ta. Ta. Hi. Na. Ka. Ti. Ni. Ta. Ka. Ta. Ta. Let's double up our game and ta, ta, ti, na, ka, ti, ni, ta, ta, ti, na, ka, ti, double ta, ta, ti, na, ka, ti, ni, ta, ta, ti, na, ti, na, ki, ta, ti, ni, ta, ta, ti. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's just relax those knees out. So as you saw, you did the same footwork in Sama, in Abhanga, in Chauka. Now let's do this in Tribhanga. The Abhanga and the Tribhanga has the same logic. So if you have the right Tribhanga, the left leg is totally weight bearing. You cannot be gesturing with it. So let's get to the heel, flat, flat footwork. Heel, flat, flat. Heel, flat, flat. Heel, flat, flat. Heel, flat. Moving to the left side immediately. Heel, flat, flat. Beautiful. Heel, flat, flat. Nice. Heel, flat, flat. Nice. Heel, flat, flat. Now let's get to use our wrists and our fingers in detailed and precise ways. So you have the tips of the index and thumbs joined, and you are literally swaying your wrists together and together. So the wrists have a parallel action, parallel action. Heel, flat, flat. Nice. Heel, flat, flat. Beautiful. Heel, flat, flat. Yeah. And heel, flat. So as you see, upper body is way more lyrical than the grounded lower body. Flat, flat. Upper body follows the music, the melody. The lower body follows the percussion. I think that is true for many dance forms. Flat, flat. Again, heel, flat, flat. So there is the lilting upper body, much more lilting than the lower body. And the contrast is the opposition. So that's the second very strong and important principle in Odissi. Opposition. Opposition of the lower and the upper body, the grounded lower body, the lyrical upper body. The first principle that I shared was isolation. So even here, you're isolating your wrist, your torso, and your feet. Isolation and opposition are literally working in tandem. And the torso is very active. The side-to-side sway of the spine is very, very active. Flat. Heel, flat, flat. Now let's do the entire thing in Tribhangi. Right, go. Heel, flat, flat. And heel, flat, flat. And heel, flat, flat. And last time before we switch and heel. flat, flat. And heel, flat, flat. And heel, flat, flat. We won't switch, but go to the higher speeds here. 1, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 4, 2. 4 more times. 4. 3, 2, 1. Other side. Ta, up, ta, up, na, up, ti, in, ta, up, ta, up, na, up, ti, na, kita, dhini, ta, ta, ti, na, ka, dhini. Back to sum. Okay, lovely. So here I hope to sort of really think through isolation and opposition. Now let's see if we can do a little of coordination. Now coordination is not just with the body parts. Coordination is with the text. Coordination is with the meaning. Coordination is with the music. So how can we do a little bit of coordination? So let's just try a very simple exercise, something that we did, right? Now imagine that we are plucking a flower and looking at it. We are plucking the flower and looking at it. So there is a looking out and then a looking at, a looking out and a looking at. So this is acting. This is nothing else but that. And then so in Odissi, it's no point to say you cannot divide dance and theater, because dance is very, very theatrical. And you look. So ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, a, da, sai, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, na, kita, ta, ta, thi, look at it and place it in your hair. So you are looking at it and then placing it, making a circle and placing it in your head. So archaic and classical. But we are sort of dealing with an invented tradition or a really old dance. Here we look at it and we circle it to our hair. Again, we look at it and then we circle it to the hair. We look at it and circle it to the hair. So let's just try a little bit of all of that in the coordination. So let's start with the circular movement first. So back to your Tribhangi, the plie, asymmetrical plie, right? Now, keeping your hands to your waist, you brush and circle and land. Nice, without hurting yourself or your dog around you, making sure. And then the other side, we brush, we circle and land. Beautiful. And we brush, we circle and land. Again, other side, we brush, we circle and land. Yeah. Now I have a pet peeve. Pet peeve between switching sides. And there is a ceremonious switching of sides. So let's try a ceremonious switching of sides. So we are on the right side. Now there's a ceremony of raising those heels, coming to the center, and then switching to the other side. That's so ceremonious. Again, raising those heels, switching to the other side, and landing. Again, raise, two, switch. Other side, raise, two, switch. Let's try the circling of the hand into your hair with the circling of the feet. Two, back to Tribhangi. Nice. Other side. Now, before we do that, we switch ceremoniously. Again, we circle and hair. And we switch to the other side. Beautiful. Circle and hair. And you see the orientation of the face becomes very expressive as well. So you're expressing not just with the eyes and the lips, but you're expressing with the head and the neck as well. And you switch. Again, you brush to the other side and you switch. Nice. So how about we combine the parallel wrist to the plucking of the flower and to the hair through switching. Again, parallel wrist, plucking of the flower to the hair through the switch. Yeah. Okay, let me play a music and then we can repeat this right, left, 2 times. Mark it first.
Sangachadvam Sangvaradvam Sangvo Manansi Janata Sangvo Manansi Janata Devabhagam yatha purve Devabhagam yatha purve Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate.
Did that work? Any questions? Okay, let's try it one more time. Yeah? Okay, let's try this one more time. That's good now. And go.
Sangachadvam Sangvaradvam Sangvo Manansi Janata Sangvo Manansi Janata Devabhagam yatha purve Devabhagam yatha purve Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate Sanjananam upasate सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते
Okay, so let's come back close. Here, we almost cheated. We didn't care about the lyric, right? We treated the lyric as a sonic component, right? But for people who have some access to the word, the lyric, the meaning, there might be some expectation to have some correspondence of some sort. So now the words are hard, but I'm just going to be super English, easy translation, and it simply says, may we move in harmony, may we speak in one voice, may our minds be in agreement, and may we sort of may we be one. So sama, the idea, sama is this idea of equanimity, one could say, but it's like this embodied idea of equal weight, equal grounding of our sides of. So physically, it has a very simple meaning. Right leg and left leg have equal weight, but then it can have all sorts of philosophical layers, right? So I invite you to think a little about the meaning of these words that I just shared, right? Like, may the essence is this: may we move in harmony, may we speak in one voice, may our minds be in agreement, and may we be one, right? So this totally utopic, unnecessary perhaps, idea of the world as one place, but it's borrowed from an ancient text from India. I can put the name. It's called Rig Veda, Rigveda. So that's the text that these words are borrowed from. So I'm inviting us to dance it one more time, full out, and don't worry about getting one movement right, getting one movement wrong. But the idea of being together in harmony is pretty exciting. That's pretty radical. So let's try and feel that, despite how tired we are. Okay, almost there.
सङ्गच्छध्वम् संवदध्वम् संवो मनांसि जानता संवो मनांसि जानता देवाभागं यथा पूर्वे देवाभागं यथा पूर्वे सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते सञ्जानानाम् उपासते
Okay, so thank you for engaging that. That looked beautiful. Thank you, Monali, Ashlyn, Marissa. And now maybe if I can request Marissa to share the PowerPoint, and I would go through a quick glance of a history, the aesthetic, the dance visually. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, introduction to Odissi. Odissi is an Eastern Indian dance form, has music, has lyric, has a lot of isolation, opposition, coordination, spinal curvilinearity in space. Now, the history of Odissi is really, really complex, but there is the first mention of Odissi in a text that is 2000 years old. And I'm throwing some vocabulary out there if it is of help. So Natya Shastra is a text that's known to be the first sort of recorded in recorded human history, first most ancient text of performing arts. And in this, Odissi was mentioned as Odra Magadhi. Odra is the name of a place, and Magadhi is also the name of a place. So both those places sort of comprised of what we know today as modern day Orissa, and that's the state from which Odissi appears. So Odissi comes from the Eastern Indian state of Orissa. So if we can go to the next slide, Marissa, thank you. So although we have this really long 2000-year-old history with a lot of political sort of changes and religious changes, you have influences from Buddhism, influences from Islam, influences of British colonization, and then definitely the influence of Hindu temple worship or Hinduism philosophy and ritual. Here, what we are going to see are two groups of historical practitioners. One was called Mahari, the other was called Gotipua. Now, these are hard names. Mahari is the temple dance artist, the temple dancer. She was appointed to do ritual worship. Her movement, her dance, her music, her instrumentation was part of the temple worship agenda. So here you have a historical picture of a Mahari dance artist. And then on the right, you see Gotipua. Goti means one, Pua means boy. So one boy. And I have no idea. I someday want to do research on this name, deconstructing this name, because Gotipuas never danced alone. They always danced in an ensemble. And as you see, they dance in a very, very physically strong ensemble. Odissi dancers are not that flexible. Our dance training doesn't have that range of motion. However, Gotipuas had this amazing range of motion. They were part martial art, part acrobatics, part movement, and they did also participate in ritual practice, and their ritual practice was outside the temple. So while for Mahari, the temple dance artist performed solo, and her tradition, almost recorded history, starts in the 12th century, Common Era. Gotipua recorded history starts around 16th century, Common Era. Moving on to the next slide, Marissa, thank you. So again, we don't have a whole lot of time, so I have to move on to the next aspect. So Odissi aesthetic. Odissi aesthetic, I think if I have to say in one word, it's deeply curvilinear. There is the grounded linearity of the body, there is the pushing down of the pelvis into the floor, very grounded nature of the lower body, and almost mathematically precise footwork that goes with the rhythm. And the rhythm is played in a double-headed drum. Whereas the upper body is mellifluous, is melodic, it has a lot more scope, and the face is always bears the responsibility of communication. So communication is not like an afterthought. Communication is key. The whole dance is the aspect of communication. If you are a religious or a spiritual insider, you are almost communicating sacredness and divinity and spirituality. But if you are doing it from not from those sort of from purely concert points of view, then you are communicating precision and isolation and coordination and opposition and all those sort of virtuosic aesthetics. Thank you, Marissa. Maybe go to the next slide. So we covered these two. We see how the chauka has the hands as well to go along. So maybe I cannot see you, but you could do your hands. So you have those 90 degrees at the elbows and also a 90 degree at your sort of the back and your the hand, right? So you are literally having a 90-degree position. You're ensuring that your elbow is not jutting behind your shoulder. That way you hurt yourself. Your elbow is literally at a straight line. So I think this is a perfect way of teaching squares, right? I think this is a perfect way of teaching squares and also teaching symmetry and asymmetry when you can think of Tribhangi, right? Tribhangi is this perfectly asymmetrical posture. There's this idea of weight bearing and gesturing very clearly separated out. And here you have, again, a lyrical upper body, which moves, the rib cage moves, isolating from your hips, right? The hips are not moving. So if you see in this move, in this posture of Tribhangi, the circularity of the hips do not change throughout the footwork. Even if the footwork is like really complex with a lot of movement, the curvilinearity of the hips are not supposed to change, quote unquote. So again, the posture is also symmetry, deals with symmetry and asymmetry, deals with degrees of stillness and degrees of motion, and has all of those three principles that we touched upon, like isolation, opposition, coordination. Thank you, Marissa. Over to the next one. So Odissi music is very significant, and I wanted to have a little bit of discussion on it as well, just because it's very easy for us to forget the historically rooted nature, the culturally rooted nature, and dance Odissi to shape of you. And nothing wrong with it, except that acknowledging the rootedness of the form is a part of the tradition, but also part of the responsibility, because a lot of the dance form historically has developed with degrees of appropriation from these historical practitioners of the Mahari, of the Gotipua, by Odissi dancers like me and my predecessors. So there is an ongoing casteist gatekeeping also. And I cannot go very much deeper into casteist gatekeeping other than just noting that casteism is a problematic hierarchical system that continues even today in really problematic ways in India. And a lot of Indian classical dancers, Odissi is an Indian classical art form, is a dance form. A lot of Indian classical dancers are caste privileged. So Odissi, along with other Indian classical dance, needs to do a lot of navel gazing, needs to do a lot of really cleaning up of its own hierarchies within itself. Thank you, Marissa. Moving on. So just a note on the rag, which is the melodious mode, and the tal, which is the percussive register. So if you might just indulge with me, you clap, you tap, and tap. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 English numericals, you could substitute them with these complex tongue twisting words that I have just shared with you on the chat. So ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni. This is the slow beat cycle. And now we move on to the second beat. Ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, 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 ta, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni. Moving on to the highest speed. Ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, 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 ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta, ta, thi, na, ka, thi, ni, ta. So it always starts and ends on sama. So it's funny and coincidental that this first beat of the rhythmic signature, the circular cyclical rhythmic signature, is also called sama, the very grounded equanimity, the pose that we started off with. So again, thinking of the melodious mode of the singing, the music that you just heard, and then the percussive layering that's there, the percussive movements that you did today. So the upper body is lyrical, emotional, and then the emotional can be of varied scope, right? You have very literal. So it's like the words that are being sung are exactly demonstrated in gestural semiotics, right? So if a song has words like, I'm sure, like, this is a flower, right? So this is a flower. I'm showing it in my hands and I'm saying it. So that's a very literal. But then a metaphoric representation might be of this is a flower. It's like you are just looking at it and feeling a sort of ecstasy in yourself. So that might be a metaphoric representation of this is a flower, very literal, and this is a flower, another metaphoric reflection on those words. On the right, you have these grounded mathematical, right? Like you have a lot of rhythmic twists and turns that happen. Say you squeeze in 7 beat and 4, you squeeze in 9 and 4. Sometimes you do 7.5, 13.5. So a lot of very virtuosic show off happens in the rhythmic structures, and they're sharp hitting with the flat surfaces of the feet, the heel, and the toe. We did not experiment with our toes, but the toes are also a very strong aspect of the footwork. So a little bit of vocabulary. So along the percussive register, you have nritta, N-R-I-T-T-A. Nritta is pure dance, which is abstract movement. It doesn't necessarily have a verbal component. So usually nritta is accompanied with rhythm, rhythmic constructs, right? Di, ta, 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 thina, ka, thini, something like that. On the left, you have nritya and natya. So natya is acting. Natya is acting, N-A-T-Y-A. Natya is acting. And here you are literally acting out a particular sort of a refrain, a set of words. And nritya is combining pure dance and combining acting. So nritya, N-R-I-T-Y-A, combines nritta and natya. Yeah, so I might have, so the final conclusion that I want to reach, which I have not written here, is that nritya equals nritta plus natya. And that's a cool takeaway for K-12, according to me. Okay, let's move on. In the interest of time, I'm sorry, I'm sort of taking a little more time. And Odissi repertoire, and let's move on. I encourage you to see this. Let's move on, Marissa, just because we might not have time to see this. I just wanted to share the Odissi repertoire with you. These words are hard: Mangalacharan, Batu, Pallavi, Abhinaya, Moksha. You know, like you have a ballet arc, a ballet repertoire, and arc. what comes after what. So similarly, there is a full fleshed out repertoire that artists are constantly experimenting with and questioning. And it is a curvilinear arc by itself. It sort of goes up into a crescendo with the proliferation of the pallavi, a rhythmic and melodious proliferation. And then it comes back to a lot of equanimity, to really a very calm and centered position with moksha that almost translate to freedom. So I would stop there, and perhaps if you don't mind, Marissa, you could show the video that's linked to the Odissi repertoire, and maybe we can watch just a minute of it and take questions for the last few minutes, maybe. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So this is Bijayini Satpathy, and I think she's dancing at the Duke University. This performance is at the Duke. The music is not audible. But that's okay. I guess you can see. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions for me?
I don't really have any questions, but the arms were much more challenging than I thought they would be. Just the coordination of getting the wrists and with the fingers. So I feel like I need a whole nother hour just concentrating on the hands, and maybe I'll get it.
Well, Dr. Nesbitt, my secret desire is is to really, if there is a possibility, if you do all the organizing, if there is a way of really spending more time with dance educators, because it is a mature form. It's a mature form, and mature little kids can't handle it.
I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much. And I as I was following along with you, I was really contemplating, it's like, what aspect can I take about this, in addition to the history and the vocabulary into my classroom. And so I'm going to sit and think about that. So, and so, because I want them to, be engaged, and I don't want them to automatically, how high school students can be sometimes, when something is new or is hard for them, then they immediately shut down. So I will think about that. How I can integrate this in.
I really appreciate how you just like how complex and simple it is at the same time. And just that idea of like curving and melody in the upper body and rhythm and groundedness in the lower body, and even just like that as an organizing principle. I could see, Ashlyn, like your students maybe exploring that improvisationally and kind of in different ways. And then if they're looking at a work, as someone coming to it as a cultural outsider, we're not going to understand all of the lyrics and stuff like Kaz is saying. But that just contrast upper body to lower body, like gives like a nice introductory frame for describing what we see as sort of an entry point, instead of looking at it and going, oh, wow, that looks really hard, or that looks really different for me. But it's like, oh, well, I can really see what the feet are doing. Oh, now I can shift to see what the upper body is doing. Yeah. Any final questions or thoughts for Kaustavi?
Are you going to?
I ask something?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to like a dilemma kind of thing. Like I know this is so grounded in divinity and mythology and it all roots from there. And when it comes to education in outside countries, we really cannot go deep into the cultural, the nuances. So where do you draw the line of actually trying to, make students understand that part and, the actual grammar of Odissi as a dance form?
Right, that's a very complex question. Thank you for that. And it's a big question. Now the thing is, whenever there is a migration to the studio, there is attrition already. So there is already attrition in Odissi being taught in a studio in Orissa already. Already there is the marginalization and erosion of voices, right? And then there is accumulation of other forms, right? There's accumulation of technique and accumulation of sort of precision and more organization, more sort of structuring, right? And then when it goes all the way to Delhi, to Russia, to America, there is a whole different layer, right? And then the context of what it is that we want to do, right? If the context is to really think through a particular form as an elective, right? Like to add a flavor, making sure that if I am teaching this course for one semester to my students, I cannot have a goal of making them Odissi dancers, right? Rather, I would have the goal that I could probably lay out in my objectives and try to meet them, right? And maybe as you mentioned, Ashley, maybe one of my goal would be face and hands. That's it. Or maybe my goal would be footwork. That's it, right? So then in that case, I would still, like, today I gave some context, right? We talked about Natya Shastra, Rig Veda. We did some context, but we also focused on isolation, coordination, right? So I think accessibility is necessary. Otherwise, the purpose is lost. But at the same time, integrity is also crucial because you can't make anything just accessible, right? Like that doesn't have the flavor. So I guess with the interest of time, maybe we can close with the land acknowledgement again. Again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending. Hands to your heart center. 3, go. Ta, ta, hi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta, ta, hi, na, ka, hi, ni, ta. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining. You'll receive an email probably tomorrow from Ashley Cartledge at NCDEO, and she'll have a link to this recording, as well as a link to Cause's Google Slides, which has inside it the link to the performance that we watched a little bit of. And we hope that you all will join us for future Workshop Wednesdays, as well as the February 18th. That's a Saturday, day-long conference we're hosting at UNC Charlotte for the North Carolina Dance Education Organization. And Kaz, I hope, will be one of our presenters there. And then also in the works, Kaz and I are working with our college on creating a Saturday day-long workshop for dance educators in May or June. So stand by for more details on that as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.